I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us? Yeah.
This week, our guest is Alex Gonzalez. Alex is a fantastic arts and entertainment writer, and he is everywhere. I met him a few years back when we were covering the Toadies together, and since then I've seen him flourish. Alex focuses on marginalized communities and finds ways to combine those stories into his art stories. He's been published in MTV, Variety, Uproxx, GQ, Men's Health, D-Mag, and he's a regular contributor to the Dallas Observer. And this week he got his first cover story on TMRW magazine. We learned about Alex's journey and even touch on his writing class he's teaching and some tips for aspiring writers. Here he is, Alex Gonzalez.
And we are back with the Dallas Famous Podcast. I've got Alex Gonzalez. He's a writer extraordinaire, I would say. You're everywhere at the writing.
Everywhere.
You do it the way I feel like it should be done. You know, you're local and you're national both. I mean, because you got to live somewhere, so it's like relevant. But
yeah, and I mean, I feel like Dallas is like such a hard-working city. There's a lot of like writers, producers, directors, filmmakers, and songwriters. A lot of people who work behind the scenes who come out of Dallas and make their living in art.
Yeah, it's a great city. I mean, that's why I moved here. But let's back up. Okay, first of all, you from Dallas?
Yeah, I from Plano originally.
Okay, cool. I mean, I'm just gonna guess, but like, was music an influence before writing in your life?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I was always like kind of listening to music. I was always like trying to find the new music, try to be on top of like what's next, what's happening now. And I was a choir kid growing up, so I'm orally trained. That's AUR.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd like to think I have a good ear for sounds.
Okay. And so yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I've had a few writers, and I mean, granted, we're music writers mostly, but not only. But it's just interesting to me how that worked out. So then, what made you start writing then? I mean, you were singing. I mean, did you think you were going to be a singer at some point?
Not really. I mean, but I always liked listening to music, like getting into like the intricacies, and I was always a good writer. I was always shit at math and science. So I figured this was the optimal route for me.
Right. Okay. But I mean, like, how did you start? Like, how did you start? Like, what made you go, oh, I like to do this?
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people like hated writing essays in school, and I always enjoyed it. And then I was on my school newspaper staff, like junior and senior year of high school. And then I started blogging in college, and I figured, okay, if this is what I'm focusing on, this is like what I'm best at. This is what I should probably do as a career,
I mean, so like that was like, you just kind of like, this is working for me. I could see myself just doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, I feel like all of these arts that I do, that you do, there's a lot of stuff. It's just the self-motivation is everything. And, millennials don't have that reputation. And yet you have drive like no other,
Thank you.
So, I mean, okay, well, I did put some questions down because I always space out. That's just me. So, okay, so you're working on the high school paper, then you go to college, and
yeah. I actually didn't study journalism in college. I studied psychology because I thought I was going to be like a therapist, because I like talking to people. I like communicating with people, and I think I connect well with others. But I didn't end up doing that. Maybe I still might do that in the future. Maybe go to get my master's and doctorate and become a therapist. But like, I think journalism is where I do my best work, where I thrive.
I mean, you can help people with journalism, right?
Yeah. I've had a lot of people like say, hey, I'm glad you asked that question, or I'm glad you thought of that. No one's ever really asked me that before. But so, I mean, I guess in a way it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
For some people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it all depends on the topics, but I mean, I guess I'm bouncing around, but you like, that's something I'm going to get to. I'll just go to it now. Like, how do you come up with these ideas? Like I mean, obviously you said you're interested in music as you're younger. You don't just do music, you do acting, actors and film and everything.
I do
Arts.
like art and culture.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like art was always kind of an escape for me, you know, just an escape from the mundane, the hustle and bustle of the regular world. And it's always like really fascinating seeing how much goes into it and the end product. I think that's what's inspiring about living in Dallas is that all these people who work here, I mean, you never hear about anyone like coming to Dallas to try to make it. I mean, everyone always goes to like LA or New York to try to make it, but I feel like in Dallas we have a lot of people who have made good contributions to film.
Yeah. Well, because I came from LA for a while, and if anyone asks me, I'm like, make your way here, because even though it's a huge market, there's still a lot of doors that you can open here that it's just harder to do in other like LA, New York, you know.
Certainly.
I mean, do you find that it's easier as a Dallas home base to like, I mean, does that help you in any way to talk to these different people?
Kind of. I mean, it's good like networking, but it's also like just interesting. Like whenever I'm feeling like down, whenever I'm having like a shitty day, you know, I talk to them and see how they stay motivated and, you know, try not to lose sight of the vision.
Yeah. Stay positive. So, okay, we're skipping around a little bit. So you went to school for, you know, you didn't go to school for journalism. So then you come out of school. I mean, what was your first like writing gig?
It was like for this lady who like did like a blog about restaurants in Dallas, but you know, I wasn't getting paid for that. So I was working at a Barnes and Noble like part-time, you know, to try to maybe connect with publishers. And then I was also nude modeling for college art classes.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I have somebody that does my social media, and if that's out there, she will find it. Just
it's not up there. I mean,
all right,
but
okay.
I might get back in the game. There's a lot of artists in Dallas that are like always posting calls for models, so I might get back in the game.
Interesting.
You know?
Okay.
But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I feel like we might be breaking news here. Maybe you might start getting a lot of calls all of a sudden after this from photographers. So yeah, but okay. So you're that's funny. So you're doing writing and you're not making money. So like, at what point were you saying like I could make money at this?
I mean, there was one point where I like pitched the Dallas Observer. I think it was like for a new sushi restaurant that was opening in Plano, and it worked well because I was like living in Plano after having just graduated in college, like still at my mom and dad's house, and no one wanted to fucking go to Plano, so I was like, okay, yes, I got this one, and then it just kind of like went from there.
Were you like doing the Plano like stuff for a while?
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so the Observer was like your first main writing.
That was
job.
like I'd say so. It was like
Okay.
one of the first like paid publications that gave me a chance.
Yeah, that's where we met. At the
Yeah,
Toadies
at a
show.
Toadies
Yeah,
concert.
actually, that's the show.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think so. Nobody's ever wanted to buy it, but it's one of those things. Anyway, so a lot of people will just kind of do their job and then write for the Observer or write for something like that because it's still not paying your full-time salary. So then you must have at some point figured out how to leap to the next level to get to other publications.
I mean, it definitely kind of helped during the pandemic when like a lot of like filmmakers and artists couldn't go on tour. They couldn't go do like the in-person film junket. So it kind of helped that like I was like, hey, you know, I'm willing to talk to this person on Zoom. And
Sure.
that's like kind of how I like made my way into the national landscape.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it helped you, but I still, it's impressive because I mean, I know how hard it is for me to try to get into national publications, and I mean, like I can just quickly MTV, Variety, Uproxx, GQ, Men's Health, D Magazine. Like, what am I missing? There's like a million more, right?
A few, yeah.
A few more. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, that's enough. That's impressive enough.
Yeah, but I'm still like I look back and I'm like, wow, I've kind of accomplished a lot for my age. So.
Yes, you have, for a lot of people's ages.
For a lot of people's ages.
Yeah. So for the most part, are you just coming up with your stories? Are they sending you assignments? How does it work? For
A
you?
little mix of both. I think mostly I always like try to pitch. Like I'm like, hey, here's how we can take this a step further. Here's how I can elevate it in my voice and here's something that like no one else can probably think of. And that's like some advice that Taylor Crumpton gave me. She said that when I'm pitching, you have to like come up with it through a specific lens that no one else can think of, something that only you can think of, a story that only you can tell.
Interesting. And, you know, I mean, we're all unique, but I mean, I feel like you cross a lot of boxes, check a lot of boxes off, you know, that, you know, whatever, you cover a wide range of stuff is what I'm saying. And I guess that probably helps in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But like, okay, let me ask you this. Is it often that you get stuff that you're like, I don't really want to talk to that person. Or I don't really want to cover that. Does that happen a lot?
I mean, sometimes like I'll get like an editor will say, hey, is this something you might want to do? And I'm like, I think someone else might know this subject better than I do, or I think someone else could probably do a better job.
But that's valid. That's not even the same, because like I'm the same way. Like if someone wants me to review something that I just know I don't like before I go in, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to. That's not fair, you know. But it's the same thing. I don't know. Actually, I have a couple of quick questions here. What was your first like big break? Like maybe it's your first national, or it was, you know, maybe it's both.
My first national, MTV was like the first like national publication to give me a chance, and it was for this movie called Unpregnant. It's about like two best friends who do like a cross-country road trip to get an abortion because one of them gets pregnant, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna drive you across the country to get an abortion because it's illegal to get an abortion in this state, Missouri, without parental consent. And so I interviewed the two main actresses. It's Haley Lou Richardson from White Lotus and Barbie Ferreira from Euphoria. And I did kind of like a little bit of a Q&A, a little bit of like a narrative portion. And that was my first national publication.
Nice. And then, I mean, you probably at that point did it feel like, okay, I think I figured out what I'm doing here. Was that it? Was like that was the moment, or was there another moment where you're like,
I mean, that's when I knew like it was up from there. Like that's when I knew that this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like I lost track of you maybe like during COVID for a minute, and like before that I didn't. You know, you're just observer writer. You look, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know, you're big man on campus in my mind. I mean, it's cool what you're doing. Let me see what else. Was there like a favorite interview or story that you've worked on?
Oh gosh, there's a lot. I feel like I recently had a good conversation with City and Color. His actual name is Dallas Green, and he was like a member of a lot of bands like Alexis on Fire, and now he's a solo act, City and Color. And that was a really good conversation about like how he started off, like sort of how on MySpace, and then the landscape changed, and now it's streaming and TikTok, and how he's like kind of evolved from there. So that was a cool story, and that was for The Observer. Missy Elliott, she was really cool to talk to for MTV, and so was Timbaland, and a lot of like the old school like hip hop acts. They're still like really nice and fun to talk to. They have like really good energies.
Right. Is there some people on your list that you're like would love to be talking to next?
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think. I would really like to chat with maybe this band called Glass Animals. They're really fun. I like their music. Beyonce is like a super goal like for me in the future.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just kind of going with the flow for now.
Yeah.
I never really know what's next for me. I mean, I feel like maybe you're kind of the same way. Like, whenever you take photos, you never know, like, oh, what's going to be your next big assignment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is it's like I'm in a boat on a stream that's going downstream, and I've got a paddle, but I'm not paddling, right? And then I let the stream take me, and when I see an opportunity, then I start paddling toward it. That's the way I look at it.
And there was one time I was doing something for East Dallas Advocate, and you know Kathy Tran, she like does photography for everyone. And then I think the print deadline was like the following week, and then someone was like, hey, email Kathy Tran and see if you can get something done within the next few days. And I'm like, Kathy's probably booked for like the rest of the year. And then I emailed Kathy, and she's like, oh yeah, I can do it on that day. And I'm like, really? That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
It's really cool how a lot of creatives are able to just kind of move with the flow.
Yeah, it's a luxury to, you know, be able to do art without having a 9 to 5, because then you're available for that stuff, you know. Like I'll
get weddings at like 10 o'clock in the morning sometimes. It's like,
Really?
yeah, it's weird. Like, it just depends. Like, COVID was a lot of weird stuff, I guess. But what was like the weirdest, like, story? Could be an interview, could be just a story.
Weird. I think there was one, like, this was when I was first starting out, like, for The Observer. I think Eva wanted me to write about a list about the best swingers clubs in Dallas. And then, like, a lot of, like, polyamorous people got super mad. And I'm not shaming, like, the polyamorous lifestyle, but a lot of people got really defensive. They were like, hey, why would you, like, out this location? And I'm like, it was, like, available to find with a Google search. 'Cause it was, like, a list of, like, places and addresses. I mean... Not that like polyamory is weird, but that was just kind of a weird situation to be in.
Yeah, well, that's different. That's not just poly. That's like, I can see how like why are we like making a list of secret places?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I mean, it was available with a Google search.
Right, they're not that secret.
Yeah,
that's weird. Yeah, I mean that is something. Maybe you can speak more on this. Like the internet age here, like the backlash, like the comments you get on, like just the. People are weird online with the stories and stuff, right?
Sometimes. I mean, I try not to look at them, but if you go to like the Observer's page, like there was one I did like about like pride, and then something was like, oh, transgender people are trying to like corrupt our children, and it was just a lot. A lot of these people are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Not too political of a show here, but I would agree that people could chill out a lot about a lot of those things. But what do you? So we talked a little bit about it, but like, what do you feel are some of the most exciting things that are happening in Dallas right now in the arts?
The most exciting things that are happening in Dallas right now. I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of like live music coming back. I'm gonna go to City and Color Shore next weekend, and then Beyonce's like coming over to.
Are you covering that?
Arlington? I don't know yet. I mean, if by the grace of God, like someone wants to grant me press tickets, then
I put in for it for my thing, and just because I was like, whatever.
I'm available for commission, but yeah, we definitely have like a lot of live music coming in, and Deep Ellum, like they're turning 150, and so there's a lot of events. There's like a Deep Ellum Music Festival coming up in November, and
there is?
Yeah, and they just like Deep Ellum 150. They just dropped their vinyl album.
Right.
I think you were there at the recording.
I wasn't at the recording, but I've been at a few of the shows. I was doing some stuff with those guys. Yeah, it's a good project. I've been trying to get them on, but they're so busy. Now that the record's out, maybe they'll have some time to do that. So if there's something in the Dallas art scene that you could improve, is there something you could think about that you like, I wish this would just be happening in Dallas more?
I feel like a lot of people, they don't want to go to like venues like Trees or like Double Wide just because parking in Deep Ellum is a little crazy, and there's like a crime problem in Deep Ellum. But I think, if the city had like rehabilitation programs to help the homeless, help rehabilitate them, help put them in affordable housing, help them, find jobs, and then, help with the parking situation in Deep Ellum too. Like, I think our arts community would be thriving a lot more. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, I remember when I first moved here, wasn't that long ago, you could park, and then it just became... Although I did get free parking last night, but it was a Wednesday, and I got there at 7:15, so that's the secret, I guess, to do that.
But also, like, Lady Love, which just opened in Bishop Arts, they're, like, really emphasizing the music. They're having, like, vinyl nights and lots of local DJs coming in, and, just emphasizing the theatrics of the musical performance. And
do they have, like, live performers, too? Or?
Yeah, they have live performers. I think Kirk Thurman just did a show over there.
Okay. I got to check that out. I don't think I heard about that yet.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. And then also, apparently, you're also having writing classes now. Is that right?
I've done, like, 2 writers' workshops over at the Dallas Contemporary. I mean, I haven't done, like, regular classes, but it's been really fun. It's been really rewarding when doing, like, analytics of the art and just like helping people write about their interpretations and helping people find their voices as writers. And I have people of all ages. I have like young 20-somethings, and I think I had like a 50-year-old couple last time. So it's just nice hearing these stories from people from all different walks of life.
Are your students people that know your work, or they just are like, oh, there's somebody that's offering a class and like, I'll just try it out?
So the first time I had one, a lot of my friends showed up to support, but the second time, the most recent one, like I didn't know a single one of these people.
Oh, cool.
And I asked, like, how did you hear about this? And they're like, oh, I saw it on the newsletter for the Contemporary, or it's like, oh, I follow you on Instagram, but I've never had a chance to meet you. And that was really cool.
That
was
is
really
cool. Yeah, I mean, I love those experiences. It's rare for us to have, because we're not doing an art form that is like a live art form. So to like actually get some kind of response to your work in person is always like totally different and interesting and cool.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I think we're doing pretty good here. I was going to wrap it up. Do you have any advice for young writers, like that want to try to maybe follow in your footsteps or like get into some national kind of publication area?
I think you just kind of have to be comfortable just with rejection, and I'd say definitely have like a day job or like a steady flow of income coming in, and that way you can find time to write without worrying about where your next check is going to come from, or, you know, have something stable.
Yeah.
And, you know, just be comfortable with rejection and be comfortable working as many times until you get to where you need to be.
Yeah. Okay. This is another maybe technical question, but like when you're working on a story, because, you know, like how are you with like, okay, I feel like this is too short, too long. I need to like fix this. This needs to be said a different way. Like how much are you editing that? Like how do you feel like you're at a place where like, oh, I can give this to an editor and they don't need to change it unless it's too long?
I mean, that's a really interesting question.
Finally.
No, these have all been good questions, but God, I think I'm a little bit stumped on this one. It just depends on like the publication, because each publication kind of has their own, you know, kind of voice, the tone they use. And I know like with the Observer, you have to have like a certain amount to like get in print, and you know, you've got to understand like, are people going to be interested in this topic? Are people willing to read 1,500 words of this, or is it going to be a quick 800 word piece and then before they click out? Yeah,
like I've only done like 2 stories, like straight up stories, and the second one, I was like, nobody cares, like really, except for the people in the story, it seems like, and yet it got approved, it got in print even. And which is the first time that's happened, and it's interesting to me, like because I'm like, what is interesting, like how do you know like if anyone's gonna care or not, you know?
I mean, if I'm like invested in the story, I feel like I try to like represent like a lot of marginalized people, like LGBTQ people of color, and a lot of people that don't get their voices heard. So like those are the stories that I want to tell, those are the stories that I want to expand upon. But like, you know, in Dallas, when it's like another club restaurant serving a mimosa tower, I mean, great. How many more of those?
Yeah, no,
do we need?
It's, you know? Yeah, it's like I mean, for those that don't know, there's a lot of paid sponsorship like that goes on, that restaurant or business will pay for an article that looks like an article, but it's not really. That's not what you're doing. I'm just clarifying that for the audience. Yeah. You know.
I mean, I've never done that before, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, your journalist is different. I mean, that's literally like marketing, advertising. But I first started noticing it, and then I was like, oh, this is actually a thing, you know. And unfortunately, some of the places we work for, they have to do that to stay running, you know, for the money. But anyway, anything coming up that's exciting, or like that you're thinking of working on, or?
I mean, I'm just kind of taking it day by day.
Right. Have you ever thought about like maybe it's my cat. Ever thought of maybe like a book, or?
I'm kind of like I just started outlining a book like in my Google Docs, and just kind of writing like little chapters and trying to see what comes of it over the next year or 2.
Okay. Interesting. Yes, another thing, because you do a lot of arts, but then you also do, like you're saying, like the marginalized stories, or speaking for people with marginalized voices. So what's the balance of that for you, like arts versus maybe like journalistic news type stories or human interest type stories?
I mean, I'd say it's all about even.
I mean, you're finding sometimes those stories in the arts as well. You're mixing them together a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I just did a story like for D Magazine about a woman who's like a domestic abuse survivor who did like a gallery, like channeling her pain and putting it on canvas. So that was like a really interesting story.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, you do kind of find that a lot of artists are experiencing pain and putting their pain into their craft or putting their stories into their craft, whether they be stories of joy, stories of sadness, stories of survival, stories of recovery.
Right. And so that makes me think of something else. So like with Observer, for example, like generally you're not writing first person, you're writing, it's not. So like, are you ever getting a chance to really use your voice, or is it just all your voice?
I mean, it's through like a lens that I am like telling a story like through my voice, even if it isn't third person. I mean, I do like a lot of like first persons, and I know that like recently The Observer they don't do a whole lot of first person, but they did one. I don't remember who wrote it, but it was about the Grapevine Bar, and someone said what it meant to me as like an LGBTQ person, and I thought that was a really good first person essay.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. I've been wanting to do one, but I can't think of like a good reason why it should be this way. And I don't know. Then comes into play like I go back to how much of my opinion do I want in the world? Because someone's just gonna give me crap for it anyway. Like, does my opinion really matter? Sometimes I wonder.
I don't know. Like, I'm 29, and I always hear that when you turn 30, that's when your shame goes out the window.
Okay.
So I mean, I'd say it's might be worth putting it out there, even if people give you shit about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I guess it just you fight the battles that you want to deal with, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just my perception of like mostly of writing is not people saying, "Oh, it was cool." It's more like you fucked this up.
That's what I learned. I mean, there's always going to be a hater. There's always going to be like someone who has something negative to say in the comments.
Yeah. Well, I don't respond, but I can't not read them, I guess. I'll say that. Alex, it was awesome having you down here.
It was great. This was a fun conversation.
Yeah, and we'll be looking for more stuff from you, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my guest, Alex Gonzalez. You can see his work everywhere. Check the links in the show notes.
Theme song, Unstoppable by Salim Narala. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time.